Hello, welcome to The Honest Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. Today, as you can see from the thumbnail and the title, I've been discussing with the Twitch chat right here about the top 5 changes or the changes I'd like to see for Age of Sigmar in the Battlescroll update that we have coming this week. So I'm going to go through the changes I'd like to see, and also I'd like you to throw in the comments below changes you'd like to see and anything you'd like to have happen to the game, your armies, the general game state as it is. Shout out to everyone in the chat who's been giving me some really good ideas for what they'd like to see as well. But having done all of the event results every weekend for Age of Sigmar since the launch, and having done most of the army reviews, I know I haven't done all of them, but most of the army reviews, done all the battle tone reviews since launch, I think I'm in a good position to give you kind of my hot take. I would like to say, before I say anything else, that I think this version of Age of Sigmar is the best version of Age of Sigmar that we've had. I think maybe the units and the books themselves have been a little bit lacking, and also the battle tones being copy and pasted haven't really changed the shape of the meta or changed the shape of the game. However, the game has developed and evolved over the past 6 months because of Battlescroll updates, obviously, but also because of something I call the production meta, where normally it takes a little bit of time to build and paint the armies and then book an event and get the time spare to play an army at an event and start to use some of those new units from the launch. And 6 months isn't that long, really, to be changing the shape of the meta based on producing those units. So that's something to keep in mind. Also, Games Workshop have clearly made Age of Sigmar 4 more of a Fast and Furious style game. The point of it is to have fun, big, smashy interactions, and it hasn't they haven't tried to make it be a mechanical, there's not a lot of interaction points because there are so few abilities on War Scrolls and so few abilities really coming from Army Special Rules. There are very few interaction points outside of moving and or fighting and shooting. Therefore, those interaction points means that the game is more linear in many ways. So that's an interesting point as well. But importantly, they love things smashing together and crashing together and fun. All right, so we're going to go through my changes, what I'd like to see. And I'm going to go do my top 5 changes to AOS immediately, and then we're going to talk about some of the specific armies as well. All right, so first thing I'd like to change, I said this before the game launched. I've said this through all 6 months so far, and I will continue to say it. And that is that I would like to see the ability to shoot in your opponent's turn, so the command ability, which currently costs 1 CP, I'd like to see it cost 2 command points. I'd arguably like to see it just go away. In before, the comment that says, actually, it really balances my army because my army isn't very good at shooting. Well, an army that is good at shooting is more effective than your army that's bad at shooting. So it's better to get rid of the more effective than it is to buff the non-effective. That doesn't really make any sense because you are buffed to okay and they're buffed to better than you. So they're still better than you. So 2 CP shooting. It also means you can't position your fighting units. You move your fighting unit in front and then their much better shooting unit just takes your unit off the board. It doesn't have a lot of interaction because, and we'll talk about this in a moment, because of the reduction in army sizes in Age of Sigmar 4 compared to Age of Sigmar 3, you also don't have a lot of options to have screening units. So that's what I'd like to see changed. That's number 1. Number 2, I would like to see manifestations only be castable once per game. What do I mean by that? I mean, I'd like to see them be cast, and then if they get killed, that's it. They're out of the game. They're gone. Now, this is going to be a little bit problematic for some of the multicast wizards, like a Slan, as an example, who's quite expensive. He's a 3-cast wizard, but he brings models back from the dead. That's like, baked into his rule set. Other than that, he doesn't really do anything apart from being a 3-cast wizard. But those manifestations are, kind of, I guess, baked into the concept of what a Slan would do. In cases like Nagash, where he's just casting 1 billion spells, I think it's a little bit OTT. I think they're generally OTT anyway. And also, I would like to play a game of toy soldiers battling against each other, not manifestations being on the board all the time and being that quintessential to the game. And having run, I think, 8 events of Age of Sigmar now, played in 4 since the launch of the game, I personally see lots of people respond quite badly to losing to a manifestation, losing their toy or model or main unit to a manifestation. It's a feel bad all the way across the board. A purple sun has killed my Sigvald. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like it does, it makes sense, but I don't think it's a good mechanic. So I'd like to see manifestations be once per game. Cast them, they get killed, they're out the game. I think that's good for everybody. It's a better feel good for the game. The balance of the game, I'd just like to point out before we get into this anymore, the balance of the game isn't necessarily close to perfect. So I'm okay with throwing the baby out with the bathwater. If we're already not making it, if it's already not great, just kick it all out, and have a good time with it. So I think that's good. That's a good change. Regiment building or mainly army building is really difficult. Sometimes it's really difficult to get that extra hero in when you're building armies, specifically because when you build an army in Age of Sigmar, you need to have a hero, lead a regiment, and then if you want another hero, they have to do another regiment, which is another drop. That's really bad because it just means that like your more elite units or more elite characters lead regiments, and then they means your lower drops, you get the choice to go first. Also with this, normally your better units are your more expensive units. So, like your Battlescrolls, as an example. Therefore, because they're very points efficient, it means that you don't have a lot of drops in your army. So it's all the way down structurally doesn't work. So like any two heroes can lead a regiment. So you just like, these two heroes are leading this regiment. Perfect. That way you can include some little foot heroes or some other little characters, which normally you wouldn't include, would help out some of the armies like Iron Jaws, who have to always build, if they want their wizard and their priest to get their buffs, already they're now at like 3 or 4 drops, which is bad. So I'd like to see that happen, improve army list building. Number 4, I'd like to see the underdog mechanic completely removed from the game. This is a mechanic where if you're losing in the game, you normally get additional command points, and also you normally can do some extra things inside of the missions. This absolutely is not going to happen at all, but the reason I'd like to see that go is rewarding someone for losing a game feels like you are not rewarding a player for winning the game, and a player who is playing well and winning the game should not then lose because the other player was given a reward which helped them come back. Doesn't make any sense. If you're doing well from the beginning, the game, Age of Sigmar is a game based on tempo and time. You plan from the start, you enact the plan, you do react, but those reactions shouldn't get additional bonuses just because you're losing. That doesn't make any sense. And then, so I would drop the underdog mechanic completely, and then I would remove any instance of fight twice in the game, which is similar to the 2CP shoot. I would remove any instance of fight twice from the game. That would be my other big change. Varangard and Chosen are super popular in the game. And if we look at something similar to like with long strikes from Stormcast Eternals, who shoot and then they shoot in the opponent's turn. So they're shooting twice. That's why they're so effective. There are a bunch of other reasons, but that's a very, very good one. Fighting twice is really mechanically bad because it doesn't make any sense points wise or mechanics wise. You're really fighting with, if a unit costs 400 points and fights twice, really you're attacking with 800 points of output, and the game isn't designed for you to attack with more than that amount of points. It doesn't really work. Now I know obviously this will structurally change a lot of units and armies, but obviously then I like to see those units reworked. I think probably each one of my 5 top changes to the meta are not going to happen in any way, shape, or form. But those are the top 5 changes I would like to see, which I think would improve the game state. And I went through those quite quickly because really that's more of a wish list than what I expect to see. If we go look at the stats, let's go look at what we expect to see from the game. So if we do take a look at the win rates, you can see up here, and if you go back and watch the stats show, you'll see me talking about different elements like Stormcast Eternals, for example. Up here, they've only got a 50% win rate, but they have the most 5-0s. So let's go through these in order and see what I'd like to improve. With Nighthaunt, they have a structural problem with their army-wide special rule of being ethereal. One of the strengths of a Nighthaunt army is that they can put 80 to 160 wounds health worth of models on the board that ignore rend. That's a problem. Therefore, they're really good on the primary. You can't outscore them. They also can charge. So some sort of strategic change to their ethereal save would be something you would have to see. They've already had massive nerfs and they still have a massive win rate. I think you're going to see something like, their armor saves across the board are only a 5 up. So I think that would be good as well. Disciples of Tzeentch, they have got a very wide roster. Ultimately, you see very aggressive combat builds with the Zangor, and then you also see very defensive builds with also the Horrors. Flamers are also very good. Kairos, very effective, but putting the points up on Kairos won't really do much, because when you do put the points up on Kairos, all that's going to happen is they just take slightly less of another unit. That's not going to be enough to, I think, change them drastically, but they're also not crazy good. They do have, well, they are crazy good, sorry, in context for the rest of the armies, they are crazy good. So you probably want to put points up on some stuff so that they have to drop a unit, maybe drop a unit and a half, something along those lines. I don't know if there's any big mechanical changes that need to happen. Maybe Horrors could be addressed, but Horrors are always broken or not broken, and that's the situation with Tzeentch. Bone Reapers have an incredibly good armor save and are incredibly defensive, and it's kind of like Nighthaunt. Death Riders definitely can just have a massive points increase, maybe like 20 to 30 points, maybe 20 points per Death Rider. Normally you'll see up to 30 Death Riders, which means if you were to take that to its logical conclusion of 20 points per 5, that means you're going to be adding 120 points to the list, or they would lose 120 points. Is losing 5 Death Riders enough to change up that army? Maybe. But we've also seen, it's again, like Tzeentch, a very wide roster. The catapults are really good. That's a list that's doing well. Taking 4 Morghast Archive has also been really popular as well. Maybe all of them needs points changes, or maybe Games Workshop should need to recognize that having 4 up, 3 up armor saves and ward saves is far more effective than having 5 up armor saves, which, if we go straight to the bottom and look at Ogre Moor tribes, who got that gross 30% increase on Gluttons, they had a tragic drop in their play rate and also in their win condition as well. So I would immediately, with Ogres, immediately take off that plus 30 points to Gluttons, and I would just slap them straight back so you can have a bunch of dad bods on the body. Because the problem with Ogres is they can't put enough wounds on the board like Nighthaunt can, but their save is worse than Nighthaunt. Not only is it a base 5-up save, it's also rendable. So Ogres are just worse in every way, but have to do the same thing as Nighthaunt. Go fight on objectives and do everything. So you can just 1-for-1 compare Nighthaunt and Ogres and understand that they have an intrinsic misunderstanding with how saves and defense works. And defensive armies, Tzeentch, loads of bodies, loads of wounds. Nighthaunt, all do really well. KO, perfectly fine. KO doing great. They've got the Black Talons in there. They're fighting. They're shooting. Keep going. Deepkin, fine. LRL, fine. Gloomspike Gits, I think, fine. Gits are still really strong, but just leave them where they are, in my opinion. LRL, I would just like to see you put 20 points up on Sentinels. That's just a personal feeling. But making shoot twice 2 CP, I'm okay with that. Stormcast Eternals need a pretty strategic change. They need long strikes need to go up 20 points per 3, maybe 30 points per 3. Paladors with Star Strike Javelins and also with Shockhand Axes probably need 20, 30 points per unit as well. Karazai and the Bodyguard rule is currently, Karazai or Krondis with the Bodyguard rule and a unit of Praetors is currently, I would say, a little bit of a problem. But in 6 months, that will change. So just put long strikes up points, significant points, 30 points per 3. Then you might see those lists change a little bit, and that's not too bad. I don't mind seeing that. If your long strikes cost 60 points more for 6, that's all right. I don't think that's bad at all. Then Paladors, I'd like to see changed. And then I'd like to see just rewrite on several of the units. Iridan as a shout out as well. That would be cool. Sylvaneth got a Battlescroll update in the last Battlescroll where their trees got more effective. Sylvaneth, I think, are okay. Sylvaneth are just a dicey army. Will Alarielle come back? Will other models come back? Sylvaneth are fine. Cities of Sigmar, I'd like to see another points drop on several of their units. Several of their units, I think, need a points drop. I'd like to see that. You could take 10 to 20 points off several different units. I think that'd be cool as well. Because they're going to need to be a horde army because they don't have enough rules on the board. Flesh Eater Courts, Moorbeg Knights are really, now we're in the production meta, like I said at the beginning of the video. Now we're in a production meta and people have started to finally build and put their Moorbeg Knights on the board. They're more effective and their win rate and the army is doing better and better over time. but that means they've got a pretty terrible internal balance. So some of the other units I'd like to see come down in points, and Morbeg stay exactly where they are. Daughters of Cain probably could just get a couple of points drops here and there. They're okay. They're not bad at all. They probably just can't push into the 5-0 section, but give them enough so they could put another unit on the board. That would be cool. Cruel Boys, I'd say that they're currently okay. I'm sure in the comments you're going to disagree with me, but I think Cruel Boys are a dicey army. They've got a dicey allegiance ability. So you could drop some points here and there. I don't think that would hurt. Slaves to Darkness, I'd take Fight Twice out the game if you let me. I would also make it so that Dark Oath is a completely different faction if you let me as well. But obviously, I don't know at what point, and if you are a Slaves to Darkness player, let me know in the comments below, how many points are you going to need to make Varangard so you're not going to take them? How many points are you going to make Be'lakor so you're not going to take Be'lakor? They have a rules issue in that they start with a 3-up armor save on their best units. They have additional good rules, and Be'lakor's like easily one of the most packed and juiced up war scrolls in the game. So, and also ethereal, just to stand that out as well. So, Slaves to Darkness needs probably a rewrite as an entire book, but that's not going to happen. And I don't think there's a points adjustment that you can make where you're going to do, like I was suggesting in the chat has just been, make Varangard max of 3, make Chosen a max of 5. Maybe those are some changes which work a little bit better. But definitely for the Dark Oath stuff, it's DOA. So I'd like to see that change out as well. BlazeCon, points drops across the board. Just give BlazeCon 25% more points to play with, and then let's see how the game works in the future. Skaven, I would like to see Rattling Guns get a big points increase, but while that happens, I'd like to see a big points decrease in several of their other units. I'd like to see the big man himself, Double Priest Wizard, come down, I don't know, 50 or 60 points, something pretty aggressive. I'd like to see that a lot. I'd like to see the Vermin Lords maybe come down 20, 30 points as well, so you could spam Vermin Lords, because that's at least funny. I'd like to see Doom Flayers stay the same. Clan Rats, I'd like to see Clan Rats maybe even come down points, so you could just have tons of them and just really fucking piss people off. I'd like to see that. I don't know. That would be good. Sorry for swearing. That'd be good. Seraphon, I'd like to see the Slan come down points. I'd like to see Agrodons come down points. They can't compete with other units in their field, so they don't. So they need to come down points so they can do a little bit better. If you're not changing others. I'd like to see Saurus Warriors. The Saurus Warriors, I think, are okay. I think for Seraphon, I think they need a points reduction so they could put another unit on the board. That's what I'd like to see. The internal balance is also kind of okay. Everything's kind of vying position, but they really struggle with like first turn charges. So they need some screens and some other stuff. Iron Jaws, oof. I'd like them to completely rewrite like the book. But thankfully, we're getting a new book in January, so I'm going to put a pin in that for now. Soulblight Gravelords. It's a great question on Soulblight Gravelords. It looks like they've got all the tools in their roster. That they need. They've got strike last spells. They've got great combat pieces. They now have started to get more popular as the production meta has happened, because we've seen lots of Blood Knights get on the board. Good armor saves, good fighting. Maybe that's something we need to see as well. And they're not in a terrible position. Their recursion got slapped heavily in the last Battlescroll update. So I think I'd like to see Soulblight Gravelords get a little bit of recursion back, but then that might be too much of a problem. But I would like to see something where they get like more output, because I think they've got a lot of bodies on the board. You got to play very cagey, but some more output would be good. Maggotkin and Nurgle are in an interesting position, because I've seen them be more popular recently, but ultimately they are worse than the other armies. Like if you take Maggotkin and Nurgle, you're like, okay, their thing is that they survive, and you're like, amazing. What's their stat line? They're like, well, it's this many health on this armor save and this ward save. And then you're like, well, cool, but Nighthorn have so many more wounds and health on the board with an unrenderable save that's also got a ward save. So until they really understand the difference between those, Maggotkin won't get what they need. If anything, I'd give Maggotkin more output, is what I would do. So I maybe would drop the points of their Maggoth Lords, maybe drop the points on the Glotkin, maybe drop the points, because he's pretty egregious I would definitely drop the points on the named demon, greater demon. What is his name? Rotigus. I dropped the points on Rotigus as well. I think that'd be really good. And then Slanesh. I would, Sinesh, points-wise, oh my God. Sinesh, I would like give them 4-up armor saves. Like in a world of 5-up armor saves, I'd give them 4-up armor saves at least across the board. I think that would be a good start to the game. And then I would probably drop the points on everything. I'd give them 25% as well. I'd easily give Sinesh like 25% more points wherever that needs to happen. Fire Slayers needs a complete rewrite. Points that are going to do nothing to help them out. Sons of Behemoth are perfectly fine. And then Ogre Moor Tribes, again, give them like a load of points back. They really need it. I really do think that. And that's basically the points as we see them. But there are some egregious units that need fixing. Long Strikes, Paladors. Nighthawk's a structural issue, definitely. But I'm just bored of reading out those units, so they need changing. But let me know what you think. Obviously, that Battlescroll update in a few days. I hope I've given you a good indication of like, you know, kind of the game state of what's happening and what people think about it, or at least what I think about it. And an important point to note, because I never say this enough, the game's fine. Like, there are units that are too good. Absolutely. And they are really egregious. But the thing about it is if you are not playing at like a kind of a top end, especially if you're playing at the local club, you know, your mate's like, oh, I'm going to play Stormcast. You're like, cool. Is it okay if you don't bring 6 Long Strikes? If they're like, no, I want to bring 6 Long Strikes and 6 Paladors, you're just like, bro, I'm running ogres. Take something else. Like, that should be a conversation that you're having, because when you do take something else, the game's super cool. It's engaging. The back and forth and the battle tactics is fun. The being able to do stuff in your opponent's turn is fun. Taking different regiments from renown is fun. Like, there is loads of play in this game when you're not trying to pick and choose the best units. And when you are picking and choosing the best units, like in a competitive setting, the game state is something that you understand and you build around. So, like, I'd like to be clear, again, I think Age of Sigmar is in a good position. I keep saying this and I keep trying to say it, but, and again, considering it's written by people who think that the Fast and the Furious movies are like the height of cinema. So, like it's okay. And you should be having fun. If you're not having fun, ask yourself why. It's Christmas. I don't want you to not have fun. And if you're not sure why you're not having fun, leave them in the comments below. Maybe I should make a video on how to have fun playing games. But a lot of it's set based on your expectations. So go have a good time playing those games. But stuff needs addressing. I hope it gets addressed. I hope it gets fixed. And thanks for watching my video. Thanks to everyone on the Wargamer Patreon. Love you. See you. Bye.